And the best piece of advice I got from my father, and it was that I should be self-employed. Initially, I had thought of a different career path where I wouldn't necessarily be self-employed, but I think that was quite profound for me. My name is Sachara Muhabi. I am a 36-year-old. I am a father of a 11-year-old daughter. I am an advocate in private practice.
We wanted to compress 1,000 years in one space using human age as a unit of measure. So we asked people a few questions about some consistent aspects of the life experience. What does being human mean to you?
So being human, and I take this from the African saying, I am because you are. I am human because of other humans. So being human means to me being part of humanity, being part of that whole.
What's the one thing you'd like to change about the world?
Just taking from the first question about what it means to be human, what I would like to change about the world is bringing about more humanity, making the world to have a common understanding of Botho, and having a common understanding of Botho and living by that value and that creed. And I say this because of the different cultures, the different philosophies, etc. My observation is that in Western cultures, people lead lives less concerned about others. It's more individualistic. It's more, it's more individualistic as opposed to unit-based. So if we could, the world would be a better place if we would have that common understanding. And the world would have less conflict, less turmoil, less problems if we had that common understanding of humanity.
What do you feel you have confident knowledge of?
The Word of God tells us that we should have confident understanding in the knowledge that we are God's children. We can expect good because of that. So that's the first thing. And then I have confident knowledge as well of my craft. I think a large part of who I am and my identity is about my profession. So I think I have confident knowledge of my craft, and that I am making, at least for now, of course, with the realization that it's a journey. I have confident knowledge of the fact that I am charting my path in my profession.
If you could offer a newborn child only one piece of advice, what would it be?
I have this belief that, particularly for a child, they have enormous protection of God, and at least up until they're able to make their own choices. And my piece of advice to them would just be, live boldly, because my understanding really is that they are protected. They will, whatever they're meant to do with their unique gifts, with their unique personalities, that which they are meant to bring to this world, they will bring. So I suppose my advice would just be to make them aware of that and to say to them, live to the best you can.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
The best piece of advice, I think, as I've said, a large part of who I am and what I'm about is about my profession. And the best piece of advice I got from my father, and it was that I should be self-employed. Initially, I had thought of a different career path where I wouldn't necessarily be self-employed, but I think that was quite profound for me, and it was quite profound in steering me to my current chosen profession.
If you could ask your future self one question, what would it be?
As I've said, a large emphasis of my identity is steeped in my career. And of course, with that comes the realization that there might be some other areas of my life in which I'm not striking a balance. So, and my understanding is that as we go through life, it's a journey, and you go through seasons and you go through necessary changes and you adjust as you go along. So the future me would have gone through milestones and important things, and I would ask them whether I got that balance right. Career versus family, career versus, whether I got that right, and how to get it right, basically.
If you didn't know how old you are, how old would you be?
From, suppose, a very young age, I think I've always felt like an old soul. And, I've had friends, quite a number of friends. I would say the majority of my people who have been older than me. And I really think I would be somewhere in the region of maybe 50 years because of that whole notion and just, having a certain disposition, is that, always being careful and before making decisions, etc.
What do you want to spend most of your life doing?
At least at this point in my life, I don't think this answer is cast in stone, because as I say, I think as we journey through life, our perceptions change and our views change. At this point, I think it's being really good at what I do and just leaving my mark in my career as an advocate. So I really want to continue making my mark and progress with that.
What value would you like to pass on to the next generation if you have or were to have children?
Yeah, so like I said, I've got an 11-year-old daughter. And what I would like to pass on to her is just courage, boldness, and confidence in oneself, I suppose. I know it's more than one thing, but I think there might be an overlap in those values, or at least dimensions of that value.
What's the difference between being alive and truly living?
My understanding of the difference between those is, one is passive, the other is active, or one is passive while the other is proactive. So just simply living is not being proactive about one's destiny, making one's mark, etc. Truly living is enjoying life to the full, making sure that, and with the realization that our time in this world is limited. So you need to do what you need to do, and you need to do that to the full and enjoy life and make as large an impact as you need to. So I think that is it. And from my answer, obviously what we need to do is to truly live, because I really believe that we are all unique and we are all meant to come here to do something that nobody else could ever do.
Share an experience you've had in your life that has taught you a lesson that you'll cherish forever.
So the experience which really was profound and devastating to me was flunking my first year at varsity. And in retrospect, the lesson was one needs to prepare beyond just the coming year or 2 years, but to plan and to get exposure more widely for your journey. And I say this because at high school, I did very well. If I have to describe it in other words, I think I had the almost sheltered experience of life. And the reason, I think a large part of the reason I flunked my first year is that I lacked exposure. I lacked proper preparation for what was to come at varsity level. So that is the lesson. The lesson was, so it's not necessarily through a good experience, but I think it was a profound lesson. And since then, and I lead my life throughout with that, I've had to, since then, really plan ahead and really think about the journey that I'm taking, the path that I'm taking in life.
What do you think life will be like 1,000 years from now?
So I worry, and I don't know whether it must be a generational thing, that each generation believes that they live in better circumstances than the generation to come, while we also, we do our best, and speaking as a parent, we do our best to live and to leave this world a better place for our children. So I just worry that it seems to me in the trajectory of history and life that we are becoming more and more, or less and less human, less and less steeped in Boto because of technological advancements. If I can make an example, millennials live their lives through devices. They are always posting, they're always, so that's life. Life is digital now. It's moved social. Being social means posting and showing to the world. Maybe it's a skewed view of it or understanding, but that's just my concern is that 1,000 years from now or 10 years from now, that will have been more and more the case, that people are less and less steeped in Boto, but more and more about projecting and not this two-way street, more and more putting out to the world what I'm doing. So yeah, I worry about that. I worry about the world being a sort of this dystopia place where people are less human, and that's what I think is. That's how I see the world developing in the future.